Hello and welcome to today's video. This is a recap video from the Welsh National Championship 2025, won, as you can see in the middle of the screen, by Andy Davo. So the format of today's video is I'm going to look back over the top 10 rosters, so the placings of the top 10, and then a few others with some interesting rosters that we talked about on the big roster video, the reveal video, which if you haven't seen that, do check it out. It will be in the videos section on this YouTube channel, so do go and check that out if you've got a couple of hours to spare. It's a pretty deep dive, but yeah, so we're going to look over some rosters, and then yeah, that'll be it. So just a shorter video today. Before we dive into that, I'd just like to say thank you to the organisers, that is the Shepherd and Hobnail. Really great event run over the weekend. Also thank you to Firestorm Games in Cardiff for hosting there. Yeah, it was another fantastic Welsh National Championships, and sheepy reroll. Right, let's dive straight into it. So here we can see the top 10 placing. So we will look back over the rosters just to remind ourselves. But the really big standout is that there are 4 Shambling Undead teams, 4 Dark Elf teams, 1 Wood Elf team, and 1 Norse team in the top 10 teams. That means that 80% are either Undead or Dark Elf. And if you watched the roster reveal video, then you will not be surprised at all. So let's start at the top with Andy Davo, the winner, the champion of the Welsh National Championships. So he took the 2 mummies, one with guard, a tackle mighty blow stack, a guard white blitzer. He took 2 ghouls with block and then a sneaky git ghoul. So he went slightly against the grain in terms of the meta with lots of wizards around, and instead went with the sneaky git ghoul and the bribe. Speaking to Davo over the weekend, I don't think it was as successful as it could have been with the sneaky git bribe combo, but it seems to have worked out fine in the end because he did manage to win. So he played versus Wood Elves in round 1 with a 1-0 win. Necromantic Horror with a 1-0 win. Orcs with a 2-0 win there. Then versus Dark Elves on day 2 with a 2-0 win. Got a draw versus another Shambling Undead team that we will be looking at momentarily. So the draw coming in there. And then finally a win over Dark Elves in round 6 to take the title. So yeah, so Undead did end up winning the tournament, but it wasn't Undead with a wizard. Congratulations, Davo, really well deserved, and a great start to 2025 for you. On to second place, and second place is Volcano. So Volcano also went with Undead, and this is the Undead with a single block mummy, choosing to not stack and instead give one of the mummies block. The other mummy took guard, a tackle white, a mighty blow white, 2 block ghouls, and then a wrestle ghoul for 3 ghouls. And this roster did have a wizard. Volcano here played versus Lizardmen in the first round, then Chaos Dwarves in the second round, Dark Elves in the third round. Then it was back-to-back Undead with 1 Undead in round 4. Then the draw with Andy Davo that we just saw just now, 1-1 with Undead. So the Wizard Undead couldn't quite manage to beat the Bribe Undead in that matchup there. And then finally a 2-1 win versus Lizardmen in the final round. Really close, came down to tiebreakers to see who would win. But yeah, big congratulations there for second place to Volcano. And rounding out the podium is Danny with Dark Elves. So Danny's Dark Elf build, as I said in the original video, the roster reveal video, I really like this roster for Dark Elves. The 4 Blodge, the Wrestle and block Witches, and then the double Assassin with double Dodge. Really like this one. The Apo, so you've only got 11 players, but you do have the Apothecary there, and yeah, it worked out worked out pretty well for Danny. A 3-0 win versus Shambling Undead, a 2-0 win versus Vampires, a 1-0 win versus Norse, another win 2-1 this time versus Norse, then dethroning Mankiz in round 5. Mankiz, who was hunting for the 3rd Welsh Championship title in a row. Danny stopping that with a 2-1 win versus Wood Elves before finally being pipped at the post. The only player going into the final round with 5 wins. Both Davo and Volcano were on 4-1-0 at that point, and Danny was the only one on 5 wins. But yeah, Davo just getting the edge in the final game with a 2-1. But really big congratulations to Danny there. In 4th, the traditional Glowworm Award of old is Nick Hinder with another undead team, and this time we see the double Guard Mummy, the Frenzy White, the Guard White, 3 Blodge Ghouls and a Wrestle Ghoul, and down here it is the Bloodweiser Keg. So 3 different undead builds making it into the top 4 here. Really impressive to see. So undead, just a powerhouse it seems anyway. Yeah, let's see how Nick got on. So it was a 2-1 win versus Skaven, then a close 3-2 win here versus Goblins, very exciting. Another 2-1 win versus Skaven, then a 1-0 loss to Volcano, who ended up finishing 2nd, as we've just seen. So this was the undead team that Volcano beat. And then a 2-1 win versus Norse, finishing off with a 1-0 win versus Vampires to end on a 5-0-1 record. Really, really well done there. And here in 5th, he was one of my top 3 favourites to win the tournament. It was the defending champion looking for his 3-peat, but sadly it wasn't to be. It's Mankiz with Wood Elves. Very typical kind of traditional Wood Elf build. Tree Man, War Dancer with Strip Ball, War Dancer with Tackle, double block catcher, sidestep catcher, couple of dodge, lineman, leader there, and Mankiz was really in control to start the tournament. A huge 5-0 win versus BB Jock's Vampires. BB Jock not quite making it into the top 10, so we won't look at the roster, but BB Jock did recover from this to finish 11th, so a huge submarine effort from BB Jock here. But yeah, started with a 5-0 win there, then a 3-1 win versus Humans, a 1-0 win versus Lizardmen, 2-1 in a Dark Elf, in the first of the Dark Elf matchups, then a 2-1 loss in a Dark Elf matchup, and then finally, just to finish it all off, a 0-0 draw versus Dark Elves again. So day 1 full of variety with Vampires, Humans and Lizardmen, and then day 2 it was just Dark Elf after Dark Elf after Dark Elf. Wonderful to see Mankiz again. I do hope you come back to try again and see if you can clinch that title back. But yeah, huge congratulations. 2 wins in a row at the Welsh Championships, and then a 5th place is nothing to be ashamed of. So congratulations, Mankiz, on a 5th place. Then it is another undead team, and it is the 4th of 4, and it is a completely different build again. So here we have the block ghouls. We've got the double stacked tackle mighty blow, which I'd said in the video was going to be a really scary prospect. And then a naked ghoul, rest of the double mummies, of course, naked ghoul, and then the wizard here. So it's a different build slightly. And yeah, let's see how they got on. So it was a win versus Dark Elves, round 1. Straw as Dark Elves, round 1. Then a quite a heavy loss versus Lizardmen, before a draw versus Dark Elves. Then a win versus Necromantic Horror, a win versus Vampires, and a win versus Amazons to round out the tournament with those 3 wins. Yeah, fantastic effort, and congratulations. It's the nicest man in Blood Bowl, and it's Dark Elves from Cornish. Another lovely build. The exactly the same build as Danny managed to get to second. Cornish gets to 7th. So here we see a 2-1 win versus Gnomes in round 1, followed by a 2-1 win versus Vampires, and then a 2-0 loss versus Volcano's Undead. So that's the loss there for Cornish. Then it's a 1-0 win versus a Dark Elf Mirror, a 2-0 win in the second Dark Elf Mirror, and then the draw versus Mankiz in round 6. So yeah, really well done, Cornish. Brilliant to see this 11-player roster doing so well in the tournament. It's yeah, I love this. I love this build. Then it's Dark Elves again with Storas. Storas, also from Lithuania, came over with Mankiz, and I have had the pleasure of playing Storas's children, both of them at the same time out in a Euro Bowl. So we were reminiscing about that at the tournament. It was lovely to see him. Double Wrestle Witch, Blodge Blitzers, Block Lineman, Leader Runner. So a slightly different build to the other two. Still doing really, really well. Starts with a loss versus Sean J's Undead that we just saw. Then it's a 3-1 win versus Dwarves, a 2-1 win versus Vampires, a 1-0 win in a Dark Elf Mirror, 1-1 draw versus Norse, and then finishing off with a 3-0 win versus Undead. So yeah, fantastic to see another Dark Elf team up at the top. Adding a spot of variety, it's Matt Dubb with Norse. So the Yeti has no skills, the Ulfwern has got double guard, Valkyrie with Blodge, Berserker with Mighty Blow Tackle Stack, and then another Berserker with Tackle, so really leaning to deal with the dodge and the stunty meta here with the Mighty Blow Tackle Stack and the Tackle. A couple of beer balls, and then running down linemen all the way to a 15-player roster, so really big roster with no Apothecary. Let's see how they got on. So it was a 3-1 win versus High Elves to kick off, then a 2-1 win versus Ogres, before running into Danny's Dark Elves for a 1-0 loss. Then starting day 2, a 2-0 win versus Gnomes, a 1-1 draw versus Storas's Dark Elves there, and then finishing off with a 2-1 win against Dark Elves in round 6. Yeah, great to see a different team making the top. So yes, only Wood Elves and Norse, the only two teams in the top 10 that were not Dark Elves or Undead. Well done. And our final one in the top 10 comes from Darren W, and it is almost the same build with the double assassin that we've seen finish in 2nd and 7th. So whilst we've seen variety in the undead builds that made it to the top, these Dark Elf builds are almost exactly the same. The only difference is that there is a Tackle Blitzer rather than the 4th Blodge Blitzer here. So yeah, really, really interesting to see that. The results were a 2-1 win versus Orcs, a 4-0 win versus Underworld, not my Underworld, a different Underworld, then a 2-0 win versus Dark Elves, so three wins on day 1 before Andy Davo's Undead stopped them in game 4 with a 2-0 loss there, then a 2-2 draw versus Amazons, and finishing off with a 2-1 win versus Skaven. So congratulations, Darren W. That rounds out our top 10. So the first of the rosters we'll be looking at is the one that won most touchdowns, and this is Orkster with Lizards. So Orkster going for the Guard Croxigore, 4 Block Saurus, 1 Tackle Saurus, and 1 Wrestle Saurus, and then a Skink with Catch, and then the Chameleon Skink bringing it to 12. Let's have a look and see how he managed to get the most touchdowns. So it started with a 2-2 draw versus Skaven, then a 3-0 win versus Gnomes, a 2-1 win versus Vampires, a 2-1 win versus Undead, a 3-1 win versus Dark Elves, and then a 2-1 loss to Undead. So lots of touchdowns in there for Orkster. Clearly the first 3 games are really starting the ball rolling. Seven touchdowns in the first 3 games is above what you would expect to be scoring. So yeah, fantastic to see Owen picking up a most touchdowns award rather than a most casualties award. But speaking of most casualties, it's Morg and Paul with the most casualties, and it is the roster of Dwarves with a block runner, a guard blitzer, two guard blitzers, a guard lineman, but the Mighty Blow Troll Slayer, 3 Mighty Blow linemen, and Mighty Blow knocking around on the death roller. Casualties at this tournament also was anything going in the box, so tackle, if you failed to dodge away from tackle and died falling over, that would also count as a casualty, and fouls also counted as casualties. So I'm sure Morgan Paul with the dirty player +2, all the Mighty Blow and the tackle knocking around will have had a real laugh. I think it was 39 casualties caused. The results were a 2-0 loss to Undead, a 1-0 win in a Dwarf Mirror. 1-0 win in the Dwarf Mirror, 0-0 versus Elven Union, but a huge number of casualties caused in that game. 1-1 with Wood Elves, 1-1 with Necro, and a 1-0 loss to Humans. So nice tournament there from the casualties perspective. Some really devastating games. Just maybe the results in the games not quite going the way, but with this build with 4 Mighty Blow allocated and a 5th one there, Morgan Paul should be really pleased to have picked up that most casualties award. Just looking at the 2 other teams that I had picked to do well in this tournament, we'll just see how they got on. So yes, I picked Mankiz and then Marky Mark with the Undead, which was similar to one of the Undead rosters that we saw make it to the top of the into the top 10 with the double tackle Mighty Blow stack and the Wizard as well. So Marky Mark got unfortunately lost round 1 2-0 to Chorfs, but then was able to pick up a couple of wins on the bounce with a 2-0 win versus High Elves, a 1-0 win versus Humans, a 2-1 win versus Necromantic Horror, then a 1-1 draw versus Skaven, and then finally drew Storas in the final round, and that was the 3-0 win to Storas there, who we saw coming in the top 10. So no shame in that result there. Didn't quite go as I thought it might have done, but hey, Mankiz making the top 10 is pretty good. Marky Mark not quite getting there this time. And then the final of the 3 was Dementor's Snotling roster, and when I say Snotling roster, I really mean Morg and Hackflem plus some trolls, and then I guess we'll take Snotlings as well. So the double block troll, the accurate and pass, fungus flinger, and a sneaky git Snotling, Morg and Hackflem, and then just a bunch of Snotlings to fill in the gaps. So it started well, a 2-0 win versus Dwarves, a 2-1 win versus Undead, then a 2-2 draw versus Vampires, but then the wheels started to fall off a little bit in day 2, a 2-1 loss to Undead, a 2-1 loss to Lizards, before finally recovering for a 2-0 win versus Undead. So yes, well done Dementor. Sad to see this team didn't get to play Mankiz, the 3-peat prevention squad. But hey, better luck next time, and maybe next time you. It's nice to see the megastars not dominating too much nowadays. And then the final team we're going to look at is the Halflings with the Double Frenzy Tree. So if we remember, we looked at this roster in our roster reveal video. The Double Frenzy Tree, the Leader Hefty, the Surefeet Catcher, the Dirty Player Halfling Hopeful, the Master Chef, and 8 rerolls with no Apothecary. And at the time, I did say it wasn't a build that I would go for. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it isn't what I would have chosen. And I did flag the Double Frenzy Tree was a very interesting choice. But I do wonder whether Smurf, who coached this team, knows something that we don't, because after losing to Ogres in round 1, it then got a lot better. There was a 1-1 draw versus Lizards, a 3-1 win versus Vampires, a 2-2 draw versus the Only Slan roster, and then another 2-1 wins versus Vampires, meaning that this halfling team won the Stunty Cup. Double Frenzy trees, 8 rerolls, leader as well. I can't explain it. I mean, 3-2-1 record with halflings at the best of times is to be applauded. But Smurf, I absolutely take my hat off to you. Incredible, incredible stuff. So just to round out the video, obviously this is my channel, and so people might be interested in looking at how my team got on. So this was my Underworld team. I had the Juggernaut Rat Ogre, Tackle Mighty Blow stack, Sidestep 2-head stack, Leader Thrower, Dirty Player. And then in the inducements, I had Double Bribe, Night Goblin, Shaman Wizard, and a Bloodweiser Keg. So let's talk through my games. So it started with a 2-1 loss versus Barnacles. 100% I credit this to Barnacles' playstyle in the match. I thought Barnacles played the game really, really well, went hyper-aggressive against me, didn't allow me to take any control, was cage diving in with 5s, 4s sometimes if I got a Snotling where I had to position so a Snotling was at the front of the cage. So yeah, took every opportunity available to him, put me under loads of pressure. Eventually I failed a 3+ dodge with the ball carrier. That, you know, it was inevitable, it was coming. Failed the 3+ dodge with the ball carrier, and then I got super punished and the 2-1 loss there. But it's absolute credit to Barnacles' play. Then in the next match I played versus Nightwing's Gnomes. Unfortunately the game just started to spiral in my favour. 8-2 on casualties with a bunch of KOs as well. 4-0 win. Yeah, Nightwing, lovely to play against Nightwing again. I played him before. Just yeah, didn't work out in his favour at all really. Then game 3 was a draw versus Dave Hopkins' Skaven. A really interesting game, really tight game. I failed a 2-turn, which was a shame. Failed a 2-turn drive. Dave was able to get in the way. Then I scored quickly. I think in this one, I can't exactly remember. Scored quickly maybe, and tried to push for the win, but again couldn't quite make it. So it was a draw there. So yeah, really great game. Lovely to chat to Dave. It was a pleasure to play. Really fun. Good thinking kind of game. Then on day 2, I started with a 2-1 win over Stuart's Norse. Again, I was given a 2-turn after on his drive. He gave me a 2-turn back, and again I was unable to capitalise on it, which was a shame. But then I was able to get the 2 touchdowns through in this match here. I will say just lightly. The game versus Dave was pretty comical on turn 1 when I fouled with my Dirty Player, and by the end of turn 1 I had used both bribes, which failed on 1s, and got my Dirty Player sent off as well. And then the Wizard fizzled in that game there. The Wizard also fizzled in the Norse game, although I didn't lose both bribes on turn 1. Then versus Orcs, John's Orcs in round 5. Again, a really tight game. Gave me a 2-turn again. This time 2-turn failed due to some good pressure from John, plus a blizzard. I failed the rush to get the handoff to a player that could then just walk it in. So yeah, I failed the rush there, which was a shame in the blizzard. Again, got an early score. Tried to go for the win, but the removals were ramping up, and unfortunately again the Wizard fizzled on this one, so I didn't get a chance to pop the ball down. But yeah, really interesting game on that one. And then finally, game 6, Mr. Frodo's Amazons. Again, I got another 2-turn chance on after he'd scored. Got another 2-turn chance. This time it slipped up with a goblin failing a dodge, and then I banged it in again quickly. Went for the sack with the wizard. Wizard didn't work. Piled in and couldn't quite hold on to the ball. He was able to with a pass play was able to get the win there in that matchup. So yeah, my thoughts from the tournament. Really enjoyed the tournament. Always enjoyed the Welsh Championship. It was really great to see some lovely people. The Wizard failing in 4 games. I didn't need it in the gnome match, and it worked in the first game. So used the Wizard 5 times, and it worked once. So that feels maybe a little bit sad that it didn't work. But the Wizard did do a phenomenal job, which was it was forcing opponents into 2 turns, and some of my play was also forcing my opponents to get 2 turns. Although in the draw versus the Skaven, I think it was a timeout that gave the 2-turn rather than the in one of the games it was a timeout rather than the opponent scoring a turn early. But yeah, the Wizard did the job psychologically. I think in some matches it just didn't actually fire. So would I take the same build again? Possibly. I might look at a different Wizard if I was going again. I might just take the Fireball and see if I can hit cages rather than just going for targeting one player at a time. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed the weekend, and I look forward to being back in Cardiff at some point in the future. So there we go, guys. So obviously we've got the awards here. Worth just mentioning that the best painted went to Doc Miniatures Vampires. The best painted sheep, which is the sheepy reroll, went to Chris. That's Kismet's gnomes. So we bought gnomes, but the sheep was Kismet. The best comeback award went to Josh with ogres. The wooden spoon went to Aidan with dwarves, and the best Welsh player went to Andy Davo, who obviously won the event. So yeah, all that's left for me to say is don't forget to smash the subscribe and the like button on this video, guys. Stick around for more Hellboy content coming through on this YouTube channel. Really hope you enjoyed the roster reveal, and hope you enjoyed this little look back over the Welsh National Championships 2025. Bye.